What do you think? Is this the only life we have?
This week, I had the absolute pleasure of chatting with the wonderful Lowe, a huge philosophy lover, writer, storyteller, podcaster, audio lover, ex-infantry officer, leadership and development consultant, and coach. And if you think that's a lot of labels, keep listening to find out why. I love meeting people who embrace all their passions and refuse to fit into a box, and Clay was no exception. Going by the pseudonym of Soul Cruiser on his social channels and podcast, Clay questions everything, and he'll have you questioning things too by the end. He also has easily the most captivating radio voice I think I've ever heard, which will literally soothe you into some pretty powerful thinking as we take a deep dive into the meaning of life, those sliding door moments that change everything, and what it takes to live happily, purposefully, and unapologetically. Let's go.
Hello, it's Zoe, and welcome back to the Mischief Movement podcast, your weekly inspo for people looking for more hell yeah in their life. Consider this your one-way ticket out of midlife mediocrity towards fun and positive impact via playful disruption. Wouldn't you love to wake up and feel like a total badass? How about breaking some rules, throwing two fingers up to society and doing more of the things you love? I'm talking full-on freedom, adventure, and those meaningful connections I know you've been craving. Stop waiting for your amazing life to happen and go get it! I'll be picking the brains of some true game changers and mischief makers so I can share what I find and hopefully inspire you to shake things up, do more of what makes you feel alive, and boldly rebel against the ordinary. I've no idea what I'm doing, to be honest, but I've got a mission and I'm here to start a movement. It's going to be quite the adventure. Care to join me? Okay, here goes.
Okay, all right then, Clay. What is your main mischief?
My main mischief. So, can you give me some context? Now, I have, from listening to your podcast, what that means. What does that mean to you, the main mischief?
Well, I would say it's what you enjoy doing. What are the things that light you up? What are the things that keep you busy?
Light me up and keep me busy. And there's so many things that do that. So that's one of my biggest challenges is that if you had a concept of being born out of time, sometimes I think I've meant to have been a Renaissance man because I am so attracted to so many different things and the interests quite vary. But my main mischief, if I was to choose one, but I'm sure we'll talk about lots of them today. I'm a massive fan of, I'm going to say philosophy, but philosophy, not academic philosophy, not analytical philosophy, but philosophy as my main man Socrates would have, talked about philosophy, which is about how to live, which is about people, what is this life for, and what is your life for, what is my life for, and being in pursuit of that question is the thing that really turns me on. And we kind of think that one day I might get an answer, but actually there is no real answer to that.
Damn, I thought you were going to give me one then.
No, there's no answer. It's an ongoing journey. It is the whole life journey aspect. And you constantly, I find myself constantly evolving, shifting, refining, sculpting along the way, but enjoying the journey along the way. Because I think sometimes you can get lost in that pursuit and feel like you're missing something, and that somehow maybe something's wrong with you. But I think once you relax and embrace the journey, because it's what life is about, I think, it becomes a much more engaging process.
Yeah, I definitely have felt like that. I just went through this period where I was like, what am I even doing? Like I have to find my purpose. I have to understand what I'm here to do. And the minute I let go of that and went, okay, it doesn't matter. like, why am I taking it so seriously? And just focused on doing more of the things that really, light me up. Life got a whole lot easier and less, just less intense. Like it started off as something, a fun little challenge. Oh, let's see if I can work out what my purpose is. And it just stopped being fun because I was just taking it so seriously and getting really frustrated, actually. And I'm also somebody like you who would say I have a lot of interests, not all of them very related. And I've also found that really challenging because I think so often you're expected to just pick one thing and do that and specialize and get good and whatever. And it's only now that I'm really kind of rebelling against that idea and saying, no, like I'm made of so many different interests and so many different things. And that's what gives me my unique perspective on life. I'm sure you'd say the same.
No, absolutely. There's a quote, and if I could find it for you here in a moment, that I kind of live by, and it's the end line of it is that specialization is for insects. I don't know if you've heard that quote. It's by Robert Heinlein. Yeah, here we go. You ready now? Take 8 from your edits. Specialization is for insects. A human being should be able to change a diaper, plan an invasion, butcher a hog, con a ship, design a building, write a sonnet, balance accounts, build a wall, set a bone, comfort the dying, take orders, give orders, cooperate, act alone, solve equations, analyze a new problem, pitch manure, program a computer, cook a tasty meal, fight efficiently, and die gallantly. Specialization is for insects. And that's Robert Heinlein quote. It's actually built off of I don't know if you're familiar with the concept of arete from this ancient Greek. It's a modernized version of the same thing because the Greeks were quite into the fact that people should that we should have this arete, this idea of being excellent in all things that is possible to be excellent in. So be, physically, mentally, intellectually, spiritually, and practically excellent. So they strove for excellence in all things that they did. But yeah, this whole specialization thing is just, it's a hard one for me to deal with.
If you had to choose your specialism now, what do you think it might be? If I put you on the spot.
Nah, you wouldn't be able to because I wouldn't be able to give you a specialization. Now, so here's the thing is, like, I understand, like, humans kind of like to identify, classify, or clarify and classify things because it makes it easier for us to understand things. So people try and put us in a box. But as my man Kierkegaard said, once you label me, you negate me. You kind of shut down all of my possibilities, don't you? So
I love that. Yes.
Yeah. And
absolutely.
So I struggle against the box, but I understand the box that people need to label people so that they can comprehend, understand, and know how to relate to you. So I'm able to now give people labels, but not be attached to the label myself. So it's like, okay, I know that you need the label, but I don't need it. So I'm happy to assign a label to myself to help others to relate to me, I think. So,
well, that would certainly help me with your intro. I don't know what I'm going to call you if you don't give me one.
Yeah. Speaking of intros, I'll give you my intro now. My name is Lowe.
Go for it.
Yeah. So if I was, I guess a bio for me, I mean, I could give you a little bit of my sort of background. I from the States, New Jersey. I cut my teeth in the work world as an infantry officer. So I went to West Point, took a commission as an infantry officer, second lieutenant, went to Germany as a platoon leader and, did all that kind of stuff you do as a young man, jumping out of airplanes, blowing things up, all that kind of stuff. Because I was really attracted to the idea of adventure. Right? Just as a kid, adventure was like, all right, I got to go off, have these great adventures, see all these, things. And the Army actually did do that for me. So anybody listening to this, I recommend it if you're not already young and you got kids that need to get, because you go out and you see things that you would not otherwise be able to do and or see. I know there's a nasty side to the whole thing as well. But just, it was that adventure that I was attracted to, and kind of set off to sort of do that. And then I left. I went to work for this financial organization. It's part of my history, isn't it? It's part of my bag. I went to work for Merrill Lynch as a financial consultant. It was, I guess I had this thing what probably many of us do. You want to, and I'm sure it's here as well. You get this, the American dream, as it were. You got to get the big house, the big cars, get the wife, get the kids, get all those things. Those were like the measures of success. Have lots of money, and so I went in pursuit of that. And sorry if I'm always throwing quotes out, but one of my other favorite quotes is that people who think money buys happiness haven't been rich enough long enough. And I remember reading that at some point in time as a financial consultant and thinking, I'm chasing the wrong thing here. And yeah, it was challenging and it was interesting, but it wasn't sort of soul fulfilling, it's just, you go, you do. And I love people, so that always made it a cool part of it. But the actual job and not feeling like I was contributing to something larger. And I think some of that stems from or comes out, like in the Army, right? You're doing something that's for others, things that are greater than yourself. So there's a cause that you're doing this for. And when that was, I don't want to say taken away, but after coming out of the Army, I didn't have that. So being a civilian, the civilian world, and it's just not oriented on that bit.
No, they're two different worlds, aren't they?
Yeah. So that sense of serving others or serving something greater than myself was, it was kind of missing that. And then, and corporate, I was just, working to shareholder value, isn't it? How are we increasing profitability? Yeah, not the soul fulfilling kind of thing. So then I went to work for, and I don't know, I'm not actually answering what I do. I'm giving you my biography.
Yeah, you just feel free to tell me as much or as little about your story as you want. Whatever you want people to know about you.
We're into my story. This isn't my who are you elevator pitch line. This is the Lowe story. So yeah, then I went to work for General Electric as a process engineer. And the theme here is that I was trying a lot of different jobs, looking for that thing that was like, okay.
What were you looking for, do you think?
I was looking for something that had meaning and purpose to it, not just making money for some giant corporation.
Yeah.
And stuff. So I wanted something that had, meaning behind it. So if you're going to be spending all your time and you're working hard and doing that, I wanted it to be for something, not just because someone's paying you some money and we want to make more money because that keeps the shareholders happy. That just seemed so hollow to me. And I fell into training, and this is leading into where I'm still in training and development, or learning and development, or learning and performing. The name changes all the time, but it's all about personal development for me, and helping other people along in that journey in some capacity and others. So whether it's a skill-based aspect, or if you're ready for the journey of wanting to go inward and do more sort of consciousness related or sort of transformational journey, happy to support people in that sort of space too. So kind of fit that whole spectrum. But I got into corporate training and just fell in love with the idea of helping people do something that they weren't capable of doing before. And the Army is largely a part. All we do is train. We're training for war all the time, but our life is training. So it was something I was used to doing, and so it felt nice to be back in that space of training and developing and focusing on helping people to achieve things that they wanted to achieve in life. And I've been doing that now, I guess, for 23, 24 years. So I've been doing it for a long time, both in and out of, well, mostly for myself, as in self-employed. I think I left full-time employment 2004.
Mm-hmm.
So since then, I've been doing stuff out here in the wide world of coaching and training, and I do love philosophy and personal growth and spirituality and all these things that we get to explore. Who are we as who are we as human beings, and why are we here, and what's it all for, and what is it why are we doing what we do? Do you ever ask yourself that question? You look around, sometimes I look around and I see people we're just doing stuff, and I'm like, well, but why are we all doing what are we doing? What's it kind of for?
Yeah, I had a conversation last week where we were literally discussing the need to cultivate more curiosity and not just accept things as the way they are because that's just the way they are. We have to start to ask more questions and discover for ourselves maybe there are better ways of doing things. And
it's not a natural thing for humans, though. We're a herd animal, so we like conformity, we like certainty.
Yeah.
And so once I have a certain, whether the pattern is right or wrong, I know that if I do X, I'm going to get Y. And we kind of try, and we fight hard to keep that comfort zone, circle, control. We do, fight hard to keep that in place. So you're right. I think, once you, to question everything and get into that space of where did this come from? Why do I believe what I believe?
Yeah.
Why do I behave the way that I behave? I call it my breadcrumb exercise, and it's worth doing. If people that are listening, is if you just note take a week just to kind of note your habits of beliefs, your habits of thinking, your habits of sort of feeling and reacting. Just notice all your habitual ways of doing things, and then kind of trace the origin, find the origin. So why is it that I believe this thing? Where did this come from? Was it just something that my parents told me? Was it something that I picked up from my religious leaders? Where did this thing come from? Or is it because it's something? Because the thing with our thinking is we're so skilled at thinking is that we don't think about our thinking anymore. So a lot of time we're just doing something. One of my books back here is called The Conscious Robot. We got this programming and we're just doing stuff. And we forget even where the origin of, why I behave the way I behave, why I like the thing that I like. And so this breadcrumb exercise encourages you to trace back, where did this thing come from? Where did this belief come from? What's driving it? And go all the way back to where you can remember where you kind of picked it up from, and then ask the question of, does this still serve me? I mean, I've been believing it, but that doesn't mean that it's true. So does it still serve me for, what I want to do? Like, for instance, my mom she lost her mom when she was very young. And so she had to look after her. She basically had to be the mother for her brother and her sister, and raise them. And so I think she had a fear that if she died, what would happen to me? So from almost birth, I think I came out of the womb, she was putting me to work. She's like, you can't depend on anyone, no one, except yourself. You can't even depend on me. So that was the belief system that was put in my head, that you only can depend on, and it has consequences, so I don't get very close to people because it's like, well,
really,
I can let people into, so far, but I don't want to rely on anybody. So, so it had benefits. So it made me very independent. It made me resilient in that sense. And it made me not ever succumb to peer pressure when I was a kid. I didn't have to fit in. I just did whatever I wanted to do and didn't care if people liked me, didn't like me. So it had those benefits. But the other benefits is, I never really let people get close because, you don't even need to rely on your mom. But that's what she kind of that's what she programmed me to believe, and I just accepted that, because you don't know any better as a kid, do you? So then untracing that and finding, okay, well, that's where that comes from. Then it allows me, in the present day, to say, okay, well, maybe I might start letting people into the inner circle or not, who knows? But you can make that conscious choice, can't you? So I've picked that up from her. The other thing I picked up from her was this idea about, never failing. So she was, again, because she had to do what she did. So education was super important, and, wasn't allowed to get anything less than an A. And so there was a lot of pressure for me to perform academically in that way. And also
hard.
Just not to fail, it's like, but then again, it has benefits, and then it has costs that come with that. And so, working backwards to think, okay, well, where did that kind of drive come from? Then you're able to make your own decisions. Because we have to, I think, unpack all the things that our parents gave. There's the book, Our Parents Do. Is this a PG podcast?
No.
Okay, so there's a book called Our Parents Fucked Us Up. And so, well, what it's about then, and because you think about it, you're a mom, aren't you? So and your kids you're only,
and I worry about this all the time. Let me tell you.
You're going to do the best that you can for them, and whatever fears and doubts and worries that you have, you'll pass them on to them. And it's interesting, because I know that we don't consciously want, but kids are way more perceptive than we think, and they pick up on the stuff, even the things we're trying to shield them from. They pick up on that, and so, but there's no way to get around that. But at some point, as an adult, you've got to, okay, well, what did my parents pass on to me, and what am I going to keep, and what am I going to say, okay, well, that doesn't serve me anymore, and kind of let go. But that's a lot of work, and so a lot of times people don't want to do that work.
No, well, it goes back to that. It goes back to that thing about, well, I'm in my nice, comfortable bubble. Why do I want to go and rock the boat? Isn't it?
Exactly. I don't want to look beneath the veil. I'm afraid of what I might see.
Exactly.
And another little thought experiment I did once. It was, how do you, if you were to lose all of your memories, like had amnesia, right? But you still know how to do all those sort of, bodily functions and, do all the motor skills, but you just had no recollection of your past. How would you know who to be? It's a tough one, isn't it? It's like, and because just so much of who you are is from other people and other things.
You get a blank page, don't you? And you start all over again, but in what capacity that's the same and what capacity that's totally different, I don't know.
Yeah, that's it. It's like, oh, how do, and so we, and it's.
Do these kind of things keep you awake at night when you're lying in bed?
Well, this kind of things that are always bouncing around in my head. Yes, I'm a massive note taker. So, all my stuff, like from this morning, for instance, my question that I was pursuing is around, I was watching a sci-fi thing, and it was about this. It was about meaning and purpose. And it was from an android that actually that was sentient. It was a sentient robot that believed in the goddess. And they were talking about purpose and meaning, and her owner, I guess, was like, well, that's kind of odd, because your purpose is built right into your programming. And then she remarks, it isn't always about finding the answer. It's the process of seeking. You can also find enlightenment. And I was like, yeah. And so I've been ruminating. That's been what's been bouncing around in my head this morning, and thinking, so because I've always considered myself to be like a seeker, but seeking for seeking. So I'm not even looking for anything. So people ask me, "Oh, are you looking?" I'm at my happiest just seeking. I don't even need to find anything. It's just seeking for seeking's sake, just the same as knowledge. I like knowledge for knowledge sake. I don't even, 3/4 of these, all these books, the listeners can't see it, but it's just, this room is just full of hundreds of books in here, and and they don't. Some of them, the oddest things. It's just I just had an interest and just okay, well, I'll read that one, but it's not related to doing anything of an academic pursuit. It's not for work. It's just there's when you mentioned earlier about curiosity. It was like, all right, for whatever reason, that topic came into my head, and so now I want to learn about it, and I probably will never use it again, but who knows? But it's just all in there, and so yeah, there's loads of. Nothing keeps me up at night. As my wife will attest to, I fall asleep in 3 seconds. I never really struggle with the sleep thing. I'm a good sleeper.
It's series 2, and I'm excited to be back partnering with Polite Club again, a brand whose mission is to change the attitude towards vulnerability and to encourage more conversation around it in order to increase real human connection. The vehicle for these conversations is clothing, or connection clothing as it's become known. And connection is one of our core values. So to bring more people together and help you rebel against staying the same, Polite Club are offering a cheeky 10% discount when you use the code MISCHIEF at the checkout. Sustainable, organic, and rebellious, of course, Polite Club also uses 50% of their profits to fund proactive suicide prevention in the form of coaching, support, and awareness raising, which enables people to understand their emotions and express how they feel constructively. Become a vulnerable with us. For more info on the brand or to buy online, go to politeclub.co.uk or follow on Instagram at politeclubhq. Now, on with the show.
But I do get up early. I'm like a 4:35 a.m. guy.
Wow.
But I get all my. It's when I do it's my clay time. I call it. It's just because I've got time to be quiet. Nobody wants anything from you at 5 a.m. So,
Oh yeah, I know.
Nobody wants you.
Yeah.
And then so from between 5 and 7 is clay time. And then I go to the gym after that. And then the rest of the world can have whatever it is that they want. Everything else is just bonus from there. So as long as I get my clay time, I don't really care.
What do you get done? What do you like to do in clay time? I love that clay time.
Reading mostly. Reading, writing, thinking is my 3 things. Primarily reading, but then reading also sparks the thinking, and the thinking sparks the writing. So it's a combination of those 3 things. That's all that I do.
Are you religious about that time? Is it literally ingrained in you that every day?
Every day, Saturday, Sunday, holidays. I'll have a lie-in on the weekend and stay in bed till 6, as opposed to 5 a.m. So, yeah. That's a 7-day-a-week ritual. And it's not even one that I don't have to force it. It's just a thing. It's just you just get up and make my coffee.
I'd like it to be a ritual for me, but I find I'm struggling to get out of bed. But that's what I'm aiming for.
You got to find your time, though.
Yeah.
It's like I know that people say, the 5 a.m. club, but if that's not your time of day, then you're going to be useless anyway. So,
well, I'm always saying to people, doesn't have to be 5 a.m. It doesn't have to be 6. It doesn't even have to be 7.
It could be 3 a.m.
Yeah, when you get in from clubbing, or when you're up feeding little kids and stuff. I mean, I used to just try and fit in journaling. And it used to grate on me when people would say, you need to get up at sort of 5 or 6 and do these things before your day starts. And I'd be like, but I've been up half the night feeding a small baby. Just the idea of going to sleep for an hour to get up again and start journaling, it just doesn't work for me.
And I'm a proponent of journal whenever, write whenever. So
yeah, I do that.
Yeah, I think it's, I think you inhibit yourself if you make that kind of thing a ritual. So I'll write, if I'm standing in line and I've got 5 minutes, that's 5 minutes to write down some notes. So someone on Twitter was asking, they did a little piece on journaling and about doing it in a physical journal or on electronic diary. And I used to be a massive fan of the physical journal, and I still keep my little thing here, but I don't really journal there as much. But I got an attic full of old ones of these. But these days I'm primarily a digital journaler, and a lot of that is any device I have in my hand, I can go to my diary and start working on. And I also like the metadata that you get, so it'll note time of day, the weather, all that sort of stuff that I don't have to think about. It's kind of there. And then I can add any pictures or any things like that are around. But it's just something, I can do it on my phone, my iPad, computer, someone else's computer. So it's like always there. So if I got a moment, I can write down a couple of sentences in my sort of diary stroke journal stroke notebook. is all interrelated for me.
Yeah, I always try. I mean, I aim for the mornings, but if I don't get there, I don't beat myself up about it. It's not like I stick to one of these 5 a.m. schedules.
My best writing is in the morning. I'm probably at my most creative is early morning, because there's nothing on my mind. Part of my brain is not still digesting some work problem, so I'm just fresh. It's just like my best time of the day is that early morning piece.
You do seem to have this kind of real enthusiasm and love for embracing even the small things in life. Do you feel happy with the choices, do you think, that you've made since leaving the army and moving to the UK via the corporate world?
Happy. So in true philosopher style, when you say happy,
now, aren't you?
Happy. What is happy? Yeah, I mean, I mean, the choices that you make are the choices that you kind of make, aren't they? And all of them go to making you the person that you kind of are. So whatever that choice is, and some choices have been good, some have been bad, but I wouldn't be the same person talking to you right now without the choices that I've already made. So it's, so, some choices sucked. And they had some.
Like what?
Huh? Wow. I tell you, here's one that had a good story at the end of it. At West Point, it's a 4-year university. It's like your Sandhurst, but I was supposed to graduate in 1991. But I ended up getting suspended for a year. And I'll have to link to another podcast if people want to know the story of why I got suspended for a year. But yeah, I got suspended for a year, which is a big deal, because normally you get kicked out, but there were some grace things that happened, and just got suspended for a year. Now, had I not got suspended, I would have not met my present, like say current, like I had more than one wife. I would have not met my wife, because she didn't come to West Point until 92, and I would have been gone. And so, a bad thing happened, but out of that bad thing, a good thing happened. So, so my whole life would have been a different life without that bad choice.
Yeah.
And in fact, you said about the small things. It was an actual small choice that I made that led to being suspended. And when people hear this, so at West Point, you weren't allowed to have a car until you were a senior. And I had the car as a junior just before my senior year. And in long story short, and we'll find a link to it, you can hear the longer version, but the short version is I got stopped, and then I've got turned in for honor violation, and then from that is where I got suspended. And the choice that I made was, do I park my car before formation or after formation? That tiny little choice had major consequences. There's Dan Millman. He has a book called No Ordinary Moments, that there are no ordinary moments. So every moment of your life is an extraordinary moment. And so you should be present for it. And even the smallest decisions that we make, if you add them all up, they have a big, just to go outside today and decide to go left instead of going right has a big, massive thing. But you don't ever necessarily get to know what that is. Sometimes you do, like when I've just done this. And this, again, I think is another worthy thought experiment to do, just to go back and think about all the little decisions that you made and where they. So for me, deciding, do I go park my car before formation, after formation, led to a whole bunch of things. And if I trace that back, the current girl that I was with at the time, I only met her because it was, do I check my mail before lunch or after lunch? I decided to check it before lunch, and she happened to be in the mailroom, and otherwise I probably wouldn't have never met her, and then that wouldn't, the whole chain of events wouldn't happen. But they're just tiny little decisions, and you always kind of think, what happens if I had gone right instead of going left? I mean, in the end, you wouldn't be who you are, or I wouldn't be who I am right now without making the decision that I made. But it's just fascinating to kind of think, who would Clay be if I had parked after formation? Who would that version of Clay be? So I would really love to do. To be able to do like the time travel thing, or to be able to look at the parallel universes, it'd be fascinating just to see how that timeline would play itself out. I mean, I can see all the things that wouldn't happen if that didn't happen. But yeah, so I don't know. It's fascinating.
I remember a moment where the company that I was working for here in Italy when I first moved here, they were about to go under, and they said to me, "Okay, you can go back to the UK and work your last couple of months from there if you want." And I remember thinking, but I wanted to come here for a year or a year or two. I can't go back now. It's too soon. And so I decided I was going to try and figure out how to stay. And I had no idea really how to make it work. But that was kind of a defining moment, because then that set the kind of trajectory for the next 13 years. Just in that decision of, do I stay or do I go?
That's it.
And now I have a partner, I have 2 children, and I've amassed all these different life experiences of the last 13 years with no way of knowing what would have happened if I'd have just, taken their suggestion and gone, okay, then I'll just get back in my car and drive back across the channel and pick up life where I left it, 9 months before. And for me, that's kind of like a similar experience where sometimes I just think, God, well, what would have happened, or where would I have been? It's interesting, isn't it?
I mean, it is those little things, isn't it? And we think that everything is like these big monumental decisions, but it's the tiny ones that have huge consequences, huge impact. And this made me think now of Nietzsche's eternal reoccurrence. And he says that, well, one of it is about, being the best version of you always. Because if time is infinite, then probability would state that this moment will happen again, because it should happen again. And so you're going to always be living this very moment for the rest of eternity. So if you want your life to be, the best that it could be, so always be working to be the best version of yourself, because you'll be living that same moment for eternity.
Wow, that's deep.
It's crazy, isn't it? So imagine that. We'll be doing this podcast for eternity, over again.
I think you've got a lot to talk about, so that's fine. I was going to ask you though, how do you feel about being the other side of midlife? How does that land with you? Because a lot of
on the sliding into death now.
Wow, that's what you said. You said that to me. Okay, wasn't I was trying to be all positive and upbeat about it. But one of the topics that keeps coming up in this podcast is this feeling of, you get to a certain age and it's too late to do certain things. And yet I keep meeting people who feel exactly the opposite. I myself feel like since turning 40, things have got better, not worse. I've gained a few extra wrinkles, but that's just normal. I don't I don't lose any sleep over it. And I think with age comes more experience and a kind of feeling of more, I don't know, just kind of feel more content with who you are. You know yourself a bit better. But from a sort of a philosophy lover, how do you view that kind of point in your life?
Yeah, so the whole, knowing that I've got less days ahead than I have behind me kind of thing as and it's just a fact of life, isn't it? It's, just, I haven't discovered the fountain of youth, so, it's coming. Yeah, if I do the whole, the average age of the UK male anyway is like 82 or something, so that gives me like 30 years left, which is nothing, isn't it? Don't have a sort of a fear of death. I'm curious to know what's on the other side, if there's anything. And would that change things? If I knew, so people listening, if you knew that there was life after death, how would that change your life? And if you knew with that certainty, 100%, no doubt, that this is it, this is the one life that you have, there's nothing else, there's no reincarnation, you ain't coming back, there's no heaven, no hell, this is it. How does that change your frame of reference in terms of what do you want to do with your life? Because it's your life and you only have this one shot at it. What do you want to sort of do with it? And I think, it's never too late to do anything that you want to do. It's hard. I won't say that it's easy, because that's the thing, is it sounds easy to do, just do your thing, or, it's your life and live it. But there's a momentum that happens, and it's kind of hard to break out of that momentum. Remember reading a story about, there's a weather pattern off of South America, or the ocean pattern of it, and ships coming through it. If they don't get the right angle, then they can get stuck in it. It just keeps them in it. And I think life is like that. When you want to make a change, it's hard to change because you can't. It'd be nice if you could stop time. Yeah, everything just stop moving while I figure everything out, and then I'll start time again. But life has its own momentum, and it's still going, and you still have, and then you're trying to make a change, but you still got to deal with what you've already set in motion. And so I wouldn't say that it's an easy thing, but it's not an impossible thing, and you just kind of have to work through it. So the thing, whatever it is that you want to do, then to sort of chase it. And the other problem I think that we have as humans is that and maybe it's just a self-preservation thing, mental well-being, health thing, but we always just assume that we're going to live forever. You never really think that I'm going to die. We could die by the end of this podcast, both of us, and there's been stuff that happens, plane crashing into the building, or I had one of my friends at West Point, he was driving across a bridge and the bridge collapsed, dead. He was just on his way home. And you see, but we have a tendency to think, life is long and I'm going to be around for him. Death is way off somewhere else. And so it's easy to put things off. But I think if you realize that at any moment you could go, so anything that you're putting off or stalling from or waiting till the conditions are right, then you're just assuming that you have that time. So why not make use of the time that you know that you have, which is, the now time. There's the sort of samurai warriors, and they had this thing about Bushido, and part of that was about live your life as if you're already dead. So you're already dead. So everything that you do, you should do with passion and purpose and intention, and don't assume that you've got another day. I remember when they had the 9/11, I was reading these stories that come out of it, and there was one lady who was like, the thing that came to her mind was the fact that she had already on that day, she had put her makeup on already, and she was going off to work. So she didn't kiss her husband because she had already put her makeup on. And she's regretting that moment of, again, the assumption was just a normal day, boom, go. But she never got that chance again. And some of the concept behind Bushido. So kiss your wife or your husband or brother, like, is the last time you're ever going to kiss them again, because it just might be. And so do everything with that intensity of that it's your last time that you might be doing this thing. The whole sort of, I'm curious to know what's on the other. I want to know like, I want to be, like, I don't want to die instantly. I want to know my last thought. I do think about these things. I'm thinking, what's going to be my last thought before dying? Am I going to be like, damn? Or is it, what is it going to be? I want to know what my final, I want to be able to have a final thought as I get ready to die, just to think, oh yeah, it's been good, it's been fun, or damn, I want more time.
What do you think it would be?
I don't know. This is it. Yeah. I hope it would be. Yeah, this was cool. It was a fun ride, and now it's over. But yeah, just that experience. What's it like? That last breath, I think, is curious to me. That thing is going to be interesting. And then will I wake up and on the other side and say, oh man, or is that just going to be it, man? Is this it? What do you think? Is this the only life we have?
I just don't know. I don't know what, I don't know what to think. I don't know, but I definitely want to go out feeling as though, it's been a wild ride and I've done all the things I wanted to do. And if I hadn't achieved them, I've at least tried. I don't want to be sat there wishing that I'd had the guts to do something and then bottled it and not done it. Yeah. I don't think anybody wants to go out that way. But that's what I worry about sometimes. I think, like you said, we're so used to this idea that we've got time. But it's a fine balance, though. I find it's a fine balance between not trying to put all this pressure on yourself to get things done in a really, really impossible window of time, but also not just presuming that you've got infinite time, because you haven't. And I think you've got to, at some point, kind of try and find that balance.
And sometimes I think, well, isn't it just enough just to live? Why do we need to be? I mean, it's a very Western society thing about, got to be productive and you got to be always doing something and always achieving something and always, striving for the next sort of level or something. But again, why? To what aim and to what point? And, is it not enough just to, to live, whatever, just be happy that you're breathing? Isn't that enough? Why do we have to have goals and achieve this and achieve that? And
can you answer your own question, or is that another one that keeps your mind active?
Well, yeah, it's the one that I answer often, and I come up with different versions of that answer quite often as well. Like I think from a success point of view, totally, you got to throw out everybody else's definition of whatever that is, and you've got to make your own. If you are happy, doing whatever it is that you're doing, then just do that thing. Don't feel the pressure that you need to be doing something else, or you need to be keeping up with the Joneses, the whole sort of status anxiety thing. Like, do you have to be, you have to keep up with the Joneses, or otherwise you're seen as a failure in life and you're not successful. And so, and then that makes you miserable because you feel like you failed, or because as soon as you get into that space, you just start losing it. Then that sort of comparison, and so the journey is, what does life means? And I'm a big existentialist. We were having this conversation last night at dinner about what people's different philosophy is, and I'm a huge existentialist. And the reason it resonates with me is, one of their tenets or belief structures is that life is ultimately meaningless. There is no purpose in life. There is no meaning to life. That life is ultimately just absurd, meaningless. And people are stopped there and think, oh, that's very negative. But they don't continue the story. And the rest of the story is, accepting that fact, now you are free and you have the responsibility, is all on you, to create meaning for yourself. So you decide what your life is going to mean. You decide what your purpose is, instead of waiting for someone else to tell you what it is or any of that kind of stuff. So you have the ultimate power, responsibility to give meaning to life for yourself. And I think that's just so empowering to me. And for me, it's like, okay, yeah, well, I can make my own meaning, which means I don't have to buy into other people's meanings, which means I don't have to buy into other people's definitions of success, which also means that, people can believe whatever they want to believe. Because for me, ultimately, all the beliefs, they're all wrong anyway, all of them. Every single one, even my one saying that that belief is wrong. I mean, it's just, so yeah, believe whatever you want to believe, because it doesn't really matter in the end anyway.
I love that. I feel like that's such a poignant way to finish as well.
Oh, you're kicking me off?
Yeah.
Ah, dang.
Yeah, because I feel like that question is just going to hang in the air for people and leave them reflecting a little bit on what meaning they're giving to their lives. Is essentially,
yeah, absolutely.
That is my wish for everybody, that they can then define their own meaning and go and find it. Where can people find out more about you, Clay, and listen to your...
Twitter at Soul Cruiser. In fact, any social media, you can find me at Soul Cruiser, SOULCRUZER, Soul Cruiser. So I'm a Soul Cruiser on Instagram, Twitter. I do have a Facebook page, The Coach's Notes. I have a Substack, The Coach's Notes. Podcasts, I've got so many podcasts, but my main ones are, I have the Coach's Notes podcast. If you're into personal development stuff, that mostly goes there. Then I have a Soul Cruiser podcast, which is, it's a slice of life podcast. And then I got various other ones like the Wisdom Experience and Digital Calm. So there's a lot of podcasts and stuff.
Amazing.
Floating out there.
Clay, thank you so much for coming on
thank
today
you.
and sharing your thoughts and wisdom. It's been amazing.
So think about this, and you can edit this bit out. But we talked about the breadcrumbs bit, and at some point, when were you born?
1981.
81. I was born in 1968. So all our lives have been moving to end up in this point at this time. Think about that. We didn't know each other existed. I've been kicking around for however many, 10, 12 years before you were even alive. And then up until a few weeks ago, I didn't even know you existed, did I? Or we didn't know each other existed. But our lives have been propelling us to this point, this time, and now. That's always amazing to me, Do you know that? How it just became because you knew a person who knew that I did this, and then we ended up connecting. And I always think, so is it that you have a message for me from the universe, or do I have a message for you? So I always think in any interaction like this, somebody's the messenger, someone's the receiver. So and I don't always know who's who. And then sometimes there's a mutual aspect, but I'll go and think about why did the universe bring us together?
I have that thought sometimes, actually, about people. I do have that thought. Yeah.
And they come in and out, don't they? And it's like, okay, yeah. But hopefully you stick around and we can do some other great sort of things and collaborate on some stuff.
Absolutely. Come in. Definitely.
I like the whole sort of mischief movement thing. And then, if you're because you're building that community. So, let's get a bunch more like-minded people around and make some noise in the world.
That was brilliant. Thank you.
No, thank you.
I hope you loved today's episode and it made you think differently, or perhaps nudged you into changing something in your life that's not working for you. I'd love to give you a shout out right here on the podcast too. So let me know what you think, what you'd like to hear more of, or how you've been inspired by what you've heard. Let's keep in touch over on Instagram at Mischief and Hide, or sign up to my newsletter at zoegreenhalgh.com. If you're enjoying being part of the Mischief movement, please consider telling a friend or leaving me a review wherever you download your episodes, which will seriously help my mission to inspire and empower more people like us to choose mischief over mediocre. Ciao!
specialisation is for insects. The competent man or woman, more often than not, is written without explaining how to achieve. That's not the one I'm after.
Brilliant.